What if your soul had already recognized someone long before you were even born? There are touches that don't come from skin, but from somewhere deep within the unconscious. There are glances so fleeting, yet they awaken your entire being as if pulling you from a centuries-long slumber. And you wonder, have I known them before, somewhere, somehow? No, this isn't some rosy romantic fantasy. This is the soul's whisper, a bell tolling from beyond language stirring a memory older than time a place, where two souls once belonged to each other. Carl Jung called such moments the awakening of archetypes, sacred images that dwell in the collective unconscious across millennia. Love to Jung is not merely emotional harmony or physical attraction. It is the living expression of the individuation process, where we are called to face our own shadow through the eyes of another. Have you ever experienced a relationship that forced you to confront wounds from childhood one, that made you feel awakened and bewildered, intoxicated and shattered all at once? If so, perhaps you're not just falling in love, you're stepping through a sacred threshold of the soul. In this video, we won't speak of ideal love or logical partner choices. Instead, we will dive into the deepest layers of the psyche to ask the questions no one dares to ask. Does destined love truly exist? And if it does, why does it often arrive with heartbreak distance or wounds that cut to the bone? Does this kind of love help us become more whole? Or is it merely an illusion spun from romantic longing? We will follow the path of the anima and animus, the inner images of the feminine and masculine within each of us. We'll see how we project our unconscious selves onto others and how they in turn do the same to us. And then through the breaking comes the transformation of the soul. As Jung once said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Are you ready? In the next chapter, we'll explore why souls recognize each other and why these destined connections, rather than leading us to happiness, lead us back to ourselves. Don't just listen with your ears. Listen with your heart and with your intuition, where Jung believed the deepest truths of the human soul are not spoken, but felt. We often think love begins with a glance, a spark, or that flutter we call chemistry. But sometimes a connection defies all explanation. It's not love, not in the usual sense. It's recognition. Have you ever met someone, and within minutes your heart whispered, I've known this person before? That isn't just a feeling, it's a soul memory. And in Carl Jung's psychology, it has a name, an archetypal encounter. Imagine sitting in a quiet cafe in a city you've never been to. A person walks in, no one else seems to notice, but something inside your chest stirs open. It's not their looks. It's not that you've met before. It's your soul responding as if it had waited centuries for this moment. One of my listeners once wrote, I only spoke with him for a few minutes, but it felt like I'd known him across lifetimes. I understood how he thinks. I knew what had hurt him. I can't explain it, but I was certain. That's not coincidence. That's symbolic resonance from the collective unconscious, where archetypes like the anima and animus, the sacred inner images of feminine and masculine, come alive. In Memories, Dreams, Reflections, Jung described dreams and inner experiences in which he encountered figures both unfamiliar and hauntingly intimate. He wrote, I saw a female figure in a dream, and immediately I knew she was a part of my soul. Not a real woman, but someone who had lived within me for a long time. MDR, page 6. That was the anima, his inner feminine, reflected outward in a woman who seemed destined. And this Jung believed happens to all of us. When you love someone deeply and can't explain why, it may be that you are encountering a living symbol of your own unconscious. But Jung warned, recognition is not the same as true love. Often we are seeing a missing part of ourselves projected onto the other. You see confidence, healing, insight, qualities you long for but haven't found in yourself. And you place them on the other person. You think they are my destiny. But the truth is, they are your mirror. This is why these kinds of love often begin with enchantment and end in chaos. Because eventually the mirror shatters and you are left face to face with your own shadow. How can we tell the difference between a soul connection and an inner illusion? Jung didn't offer fixed criteria, but he did suggest one key principle. A true symbol doesn't make you dependent. It helps you grow. If a relationship makes you question who you are, revisit old wounds, become more conscious of your emotions, reactions, and inner darkness, then perhaps you're not just in love. You're at a turning point in your journey of individuation. In the Red Book, Jung recorded dialogues with unconscious images. There he met a strange girl who appeared as a symbol of his soul. I saw a girl. The light around her was not like sunlight or any lamp, but like a memory from before I was born. The Red Book, Liber Secundus. This is how Jung shows us sometimes the people we meet in life are simply embodiments of the living symbols within us. If you've ever met someone who felt like a return home, as if you'd been waiting for them all your life without knowing it, share your story in the comments. Here we hold space for the soul to speak. No judgment, no explanation, just feeling. Because maybe in your story, someone else will recognize they're not alone. This is just the first door, the archetypal encounter. But the journey goes far deeper, because after the meeting comes the shadow. In the next part, we'll explore why the deepest connections often bring the deepest wounds, what the shadow truly is, and why the other person activates your dark side. Whether love can truly heal the childhood pain we still carry. If you want to understand why love feels like both awakening and unraveling, join me in the next chapter. A destined love at first often feels like a miracle. Everything is radiant. You glimpse the best in yourself. You feel fully alive, as though the world has been reborn. But then, something changes. One day, the person you once called your soulmate begins to hurt you. Not intentionally, but deeply. Their silence makes you furious. Their carelessness reopens childhood wounds you thought had healed. You feel betrayed not just by them, but by yourself. What's really happening? The shadow is the part of our psyche that holds everything we've rejected, suppressed, or refused to acknowledge. It's the anger we never allowed ourselves to feel, the envy we pretend doesn't exist, the fear of abandonment we hide behind strength. When we love deeply, especially someone who carries archetypal significance, we don't just see light, we see the parts of ourselves we've never dared to face. Love reveals the shadow not because it is cruel, but because it is strong enough to illuminate what has long been forgotten. Jung. The cycle: infatuation, breakdown, shadow awareness, integration. We often think love ends when things fall apart, but Jung saw it differently. He saw it as the beginning of the deepest healing. Infatuation. You idealize the other. It feels like they know you better than you know yourself. In truth, you're seeing your own hidden self projected onto them like a screen. Breakdown. When reality emerges, when they no longer match the image you created, anger, disappointment, and anxiety flood in. This isn't failure, it's the invitation of the shadow. Shadow awareness. If you're courageous enough not to blame, you'll realize what hurts most is what remains unloved within you. Integration. When you sit with the shadow and offer it compassion, you become whole. Love is no longer about seeking what's missing. It becomes the sacred act of sharing your completeness. Jung's tool: active imagination. Jung didn't just analyze the shadow, he developed a powerful tool to dialogue with it: active imagination. This isn't random daydreaming, it's a conscious act writing a letter to your shadow. Imagining a dialogue with the emotion that's hurting you. Asking your jealousy, where did you come from? Asking your fear, when was the first time you felt abandoned? I spoke to the images in the unconscious as if they were real people, and in doing so they became real not physically, but spiritually. Jung memories, dreams, reflections. You can draw them, journal, meditate, or simply close your eyes, take a deep breath, and ask, what part of me is being triggered right now? A listener's story. I once loved someone as if we were born to find each other, but then it all fell apart. I blamed him, the universe, fate. But after practicing active imagination and writing through my pain, I realized I wasn't grieving the loss of him. I was grieving the part of me I never let be seen. He was just a mirror, and I was angry at myself. This story echoes through many hearts. If you've ever experienced a soul connection that shattered, know this: you are not alone. Share your story below. Is there something that person did that triggered deep anger, pain, or sorrow in you? Write it not to assign blame, but to ask, what is this emotion revealing about the parts of me still waiting to be healed? Here we are creating a space where the shadow is spoken aloud, so nothing has to remain forgotten in the dark. See, a relationship isn't wrong just because it hurts. It hurts because it's real. And if we don't run from the shadow but sit with it, then love becomes a pathway to awakening. In that moment, you and your partner are no longer just lovers. You are spiritual companions. In the next part, we'll go deeper into the self, the soul center as Jung saw it, and why only by facing the shadow can we enter love as someone who has finally come home. When two people who once loved each other deeply are suddenly torn apart, it often feels like the heart is being ripped in two. But from a Jungian perspective, separation is not the end. It is the doorway into the soul's maturation, a path the self must walk in order to become whole. But it's important to understand that there are two kinds of separation. One, separation from broken projections. This is the most painful kind when we projected ideal images onto another and reality no longer matches. For example, you love someone because they made you feel confident, but when they fail, you feel crushed not by them, but by the part of you that trusted and now feels betrayed. Signs of this type of separation: disappointment or anger because they're not who I thought they were, blaming the other for your pain, avoiding inner work, seeking escape in others, or staying stuck in negative emotions. Two, separation as part of the soul's evolution. When a relationship compels you to confront your shadow and question who you are, it may reach a depth that exceeds your emotional capacity. At that point, the soul needs a temporary stretch of space. This is a healthy separation, like the passage between departure and return in the hero's journey. Departure. You begin with deep connection. As darkness surfaces, you feel trapped in a cul-de-sac of the heart. Initiation. You face inner trials through active imagination, journaling, or dreams. You learn to listen instead of react. Return. You integrate the shadow and become more whole. When you return to love, you're no longer seeking perfection in another, but coming as your authentic, awakened self. The hero's journey through a soul connection. Departure. The destined meeting, the electric recognition, the feeling we've waited lifetimes. Initiation. The shadow emerges, conflicts erupt, deep wounds are triggered. Abyss. The darkest hour, the desire to give up entirely. Transformation. You turn inward, practice. Active imagination, meet the inner beast. Learn to love the shadow. Return. You come back to the relationship or life with wholeness. Whether it's the same person or a new one, you're now ready to love a real human, not a projected fantasy. Active imagination, a compass in crisis. When you feel fragmented, active imagination becomes your compass. It begins with one step. Pause, breathe, focus on the intense emotion. Write or speak to it. Why are you angry? What are you afraid of? Observe without judgment and listen to the unexpected replies. Through this, you may discover the shadow that once tormented you now speaks as a teacher, guiding you toward wholeness. In the Red Book, Jung wrote, "In the dark, I saw a small figure trembling. I asked, 'Who's there?' And it replied with a soft but powerful voice, 'I am a part of you.'" That's when separation ends, when you realize the shadow you once feared is a piece of your soul waiting to be loved. When you reconnect, when you are no longer fragmented, you become whole. If you're going through a separation, whether through heartbreak or the soul's need for space, share with us. What made you take that step back? What have you done to heal or to prepare for your return? Below, we're building a community where no one has to face the dark alone. In the next part, we won't stop at separation. We'll explore the self, the soul's true center, where you find wholeness, not through another, but by coming home to yourself. What is the self? How do we return home within so that love becomes something we share, not something we chase? If you're ready to journey deeper into your soul, just say continue to part 4. After the waves of infatuation, heartbreak, and the unraveling of the shadow, we arrive at the most essential phase, the return to the self, the inner center of the soul, as Jung described it. This is where every destined love ultimately leads not to a fantasy of perfect romance, but to a deeper homecoming within. Archetypes are living symbols in the collective unconscious, inner guides, mentors, soul images. When you meet the right person, the archetype awakens. It's not an ideal or flawless model. It's a raw, vibrant presence that stirs the depths of who you are. In contrast, fantasy is an illusion we craft in the mind, a projection of perfection, without tension, without shadow, without humanity. If you love from fantasy, you crave stability, safety, a love that never wounds. If you embrace the archetype, you accept someone with both light and shadow. You recognize complexity, and through it you awaken. Jung often referred to the myth of Eros in Psyche as a profound symbol of the inner life. It is the journey of the soul's psyche toward love, Eros marked by trials, darkness, and ultimately rebirth through integration. Or consider Tristan and Isolde, two souls defying all odds, enduring suffering, and touching every raw truth of human existence: desire, betrayal, death, and hope. That is an archetype, not a fantasy, because it costs something, and it demands growth. According to Jung, the self is the organizing center of the soul, not just the ego, but the full being, the light and the shadow together. To approach the self is to face the unloved parts of ourselves and offer them presence. When the self is present in a relationship, it creates a sacred space. Not because everything is perfect, but because you've stopped demanding salvation from another. Love becomes free from need because you are whole. You love not to fill a void, but to witness another soul walking their own journey toward wholeness. When the self is activated, the relationship may continue, but with inner peace, not dependency. The relationship may end, but you don't collapse because you now live in a grounded inner home. Practical practice: connecting with the self daily. 5-minute morning meditation. Focus on your breath. Visualize a light in your heart expanding throughout your body. Journaling. Write about the part of you that feels most missing, then let your inner voice respond. Active imagination. Not just dialogue with the shadow, but with your inner light, the part you've never allowed to fully exist. If you're in a phase of rediscovering the self, or if you've experienced the self becoming present within a relationship, share below. What helps you connect to yourself? What moment made you realize, I've returned to myself? Your story may be the mirror someone else needs to know they are not alone on the path of self-love and real love. In the final chapter, we'll reflect on the entire journey: recognition, shadow, separation, self. Explore, what does destined love become when the self is present? Ask, how do we live with the archetype without being swallowed by fantasy? If you're ready to look back on your journey through the light of the self, write the final chapter. In the end, destined love is not the story of two perfect people finding each other. It is the journey of two souls reflecting, clashing, peeling away the masks, and finally seeing themselves through each other's eyes. We do not love merely to be loved. We love in order to become, to confront, to break open, and to be reborn. Carl Jung wrote, "The other person is not your problem. They are the mirror of what remains unconscious in you." True love is the courage to see the other not as a savior, but as a living symbol of the soul within us we have yet to love. Ask yourself, what am I seeing in them that I haven't dared to face in myself? Why does that stir something so deep or so painful in me? If they were no longer here, could I still nourish that part within me? Let these questions guide you not into despair, but toward inner awakening, toward the self. Suggested practices: shadow work and active imagination, and love shadow journaling. Write about the most intense feeling this person triggers in you. Love, anger, fear, pain. Ask, when have I felt this before? Is it a reaction from your inner child, your abandoned self, or your need for control? Active imagination, dialogue with the emotion. Close your eyes. Imagine this emotion as a person sitting across from you. Ask it, what are you here to teach me? Listen without judgment. Record what it tells you. Watch for symbols in dreams or synchronicity. Are there patterns or images that keep appearing? Every dream, every unexpected sign may be a message from the unconscious. If you're on this journey, you're not alone. Below this video, share. Have you ever met a soul that changed you? Which phase are you in now? Infatuation, heartbreak, or returning to yourself? Your words may reach someone at the exact moment they need it most. If love has brought you pain, know this, it may not be a mistake. It may be the call of the self inviting you to stop seeking outward and start walking inward. Love is not salvation, but love when met with consciousness can become a sacred fire, guiding you home. If this video has awakened something in you, hit subscribe, not because we need it, but because you deserve a community walking this same path of awakening. And always remember, what is true always finds a way.